Hola, mis amigos. Welcome to How to Design an Album Cover Part 3. If you found this video accidentally and you didn't realize there were other parts to this series, don't worry, no one's going to make fun of you. I'll just put a link to the video right over here. In this video, it's all about the type, fonts, typography, the words, and the letters. As a designer, this part of the process can take the longest. It takes some massaging to get it to feel right. You can think of this as like laying down the vocals on a song. And the graphic treatments and photos and illustrations, well, that's the music. And so yeah, you can have great lyrics, but if the vocals are buried in the mix and the singer doesn't enunciate properly, you can't hear those awesome lyrics. It's a waste. The same is true for album artwork. If you have awesome looking graphics, but you can't even read what it says, well, that's a problem. No one understands this better than the owner of Top Line Vocals, Chuck Schlachter. His albums and songs are picked up in foreign markets, so he's very thoughtful about always making sure that the words are as legible as possible. Let's read into this a little more. Okay, so before we start placing some title text into the Photoshop document, I do want to go back and look at some reference tracks again, and this time really pay attention to the typography. Typography in the world of design is just the letters of the words. It's very fancy sounding. This time when we look at it, I'm only looking at the type. That's a very simple sans serif type. If you don't know what serif is and sans serif is, again, it's something that sounds way more fancy than it is. This right here is a sans serif. Sans is French for without, I think. And it's without feet. Like the serif are like the little feet on it. Let's see if I'll show you one that has the feet on it in a second when we come across one. If we don't come across one, then that tells us that we definitely need to go with a sans serif. This is one. You can tell like at this T, there's little feet that come down from it. That's a serif font. Graffiti. I mean, I could see that. I could see graffiti making sense. Let's look at some more. Again, this is something that I wouldn't do for very long. I mean, it's cool looking, but I don't know what I can take away from that. Just because you can kind of do like paralysis by analysis, right? That's cool. One thing I like about that is the text goes behind somebody and then across them in the front. I could see us doing something kind of cool with that with a character of our album. That's more of a graphical treatment. However, this font is kind of techno, I guess is what you call that font. That makes sense. I could see that. Let's take a look at this one here. Okay, this is more like technology font, like something you'd see with computers or that kind of thing. So it's two different ways to go. Yeah, okay. I like dafont.com for free fonts. You can use Adobe Font and all that, but you have to have a license to do it. These are completely free. One thing I will tell you though is make sure to download and organize your fonts. The category that comes to mind here is this techno category after seeing some of those fonts, and you'll see what I mean. Look at these guys, right? It's a very similar style to what we saw in some of those. And one thing you can do, which is very helpful with these programs, is you can type in the name of the album and get a sense for how they look and feel. I'll typically download about 3 fonts. Sometimes I get lucky and I like the very first one and I just move right along, but this one's kind of cool. I like this, but I also don't like how hard it is to read. That's one thing you always have to think about when you're looking at fonts is you want it to be cool, but you want it to be legible. They have categories within this techno realm, which are square, LCD, and sci-fi. I'm going to click on each one of them just to get a sense of what the differences are. That's the square one. LCD. So it's like text that looks like it's lit by light. And let's look at sci-fi. I'm kind of feeling the sci-fi realm the most. I just want to find one that has a cool vibe and is legible. You know, there's no real rhyme or reason to what I'm doing as my eye looks at these. I'm just trying to see how the font makes me feel. You build up your own instincts over time, and the same is true with music. You know, like if you're going through different plugins for like guitar amps, it's like, do I like the way it makes me feel? I kind of like this one. It's simple, yet satisfying. So I'm going to go ahead and download this. And even though it automatically downloaded, I'm going to drop it on over here into a folder, and I'm actually going to create a new folder called fonts so that I can keep these nice and organized. But I like this one too, Oceanic Drift. That one's not bad. It's a little too angled for my taste. Let me just grab one more. This one's kind of trippy. I need it to be kind of trappy. I like this one. That has a really cool vibe. All right, now that I got my fonts, just got to install them puppies. So let's go through and do that now. All right, now that I have my fonts installed, let's play around with putting the title of the album into the album artwork. Just going to start by typing them out. I'm going to do them as two separate lines because I feel like I want to be able to manipulate them separately. I normally don't type in one text box. That way I can move them around independently of each other. I don't know what font this is. It's not one of the ones that I chose, but hey, it's not bad. I'm also going to make sure that these fonts are white just so that I can see them. There's two decisions that I have to make. Which font, and then how do I want those fonts to interact with each other? And then bonus third decision, how I want those to interact with the background. This is already looking pretty good. Like this isn't one of the ones that I chose, but it's not bad. However, I do have my little C problem. There we go. I'm just going to duplicate this. Call it font 2. First one was Magma Wave. And that looks pretty good too. Duplicate it, and I'm going to turn the other font layer off, rename this. This one is Null Shock Bold. And the last font we'll look at is Oceanic Drift. One thing that I'm doing kind of instinctively is I'm lining it up with the edges of these. In design, it's always good to kind of line things up together. And just to make sure that I am actually lining them up, I'm going to go ahead, and this is something I should add to my template actually. You see I've got one guide down here at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and add some guides at the edges so that I can see where the edge of the logo is all the way up. Do the same over here. There we go. Now I've got some guides there, and I'm just going to extend this font out to the edges of the guide. You don't realize it, but your eye definitely feels better when it lines up. There's not as many shapes for your eye to take in. A little pro tip for you there. Now it's time to pick a font. Cue the tense music. Font 1. We've been friends for so long, and I appreciate everything that you've done for me. This is going to be a hard choice. Font 2, I really like the way that you have curved edges. I think that's so unique. Font 3, you're looking kind of plain and basic to me now. You know what? You're out of the running. Font 4, I'm also not feeling you, bro. Sorry. Alright, so it comes down to this font or this font. I'm going to go with this one, but I'm going to keep this other font in my back pocket. That way, when Chuck and I review it, if he has some changes, or if he doesn't like it, he can let me know. The first thing I want to do is just play around with the placements. I probably want these to line up on the edges if I'm going to do it this way. I'm not sure. One thing you can also do too is you can make some fonts bigger than the other ones. That's another nice thing about them being separated. Now this is already creating a little bit of... I'll also try to think about the space I have available. You know, he's creating a lot more white space over here. White space in design is space where you can... It's like free space to design in. There's nothing really over here. Yes, there's a background. It's not really going to compete with this that much. First thing I'll do is let's play around with fitting it into this space over here. So I just had a cool idea. What if I used a piece of cardboard, but I made it look like these were stencils? You painted on them. So one thing that is very important to Chuck is that this kind of looks in the family of these other album covers that we've already put out into the market. So I'm kind of looking to see how big the album cover title is. I think this is in the neighborhood. You know, one thing to think about too is, do you bring this up, down, or in the middle, or somewhere around here? This kind of feels more balanced to me, and all I'm doing is I'm just playing around with it, and I'm seeing which one, like how I like the way it feels. One nice thing is it kind of tucks in around his shoulder a little bit here. I'm turn those guides back on. Okay, so I got a little bit of room here. I kind of like that there's some space, so I mean I could take it all the way over the edge and take a look at it without the guides on. Yeah, I think I want the same space between here and here as I do between like here and here. So I want it to be centered between the edge of the album and like his arm. So I'm going to go ahead and move this. I think it's funny that I chose the font that was already in the system. Even though these are lined up, I feel like Cinematics, it either needs to be a little bit bigger. Yeah, like that. That way it kind of goes with the shape of his shoulder here. I think I'm feeling pretty good about the placement of the font and the title. Now I want to play around with the type treatment. I want to see if it's worth doing some kind of cardboard element. So I used Adobe Stock to find photos, graphic elements, all that jazz, but there's a lot of options out there. There's Envato, Canva. They have some built-in stock photography you can choose from. There's a lot of options out there. There are also some free options out there. But let's see here on what we can find for cardboard. And so I'm thinking something kind of like this. Maybe a little bit, yeah, like this one. It's rugged, kind of messed up. Okay, I just want this one here. So let me get rid of the other ones. I'm just making a selection and then I'm deleting everything else. And then I'm going to make a mask where I select the white parts, invert that mask, bada boom, bada bing. There's still some white edges around it, so I'm going to do something a little bit more sophisticated. I'm going to select this again. I'm going to bring that selection in smaller so that I can get rid of those white edges. So I'm going to go to select, and I'm going to modify it, and I'm going to contract the selection by like 4 pixels or so. And then now, when I delete it, it should get rid of all the little white edges. I think it did for the most part. All right, so I'm going to bring this piece of cardboard in back here behind him. I kind of like it. I'm gonna bring it up a little bit. It's not bad. I wanted to go behind his shoulder. One thing I can do is try to see if I get lucky with creating a selection. So if I go here and I go into this picture and I go to select any of these selections over here, they have this fancy dancy select subject these days. Let's see if it picks him up. It picked him up good enough. I just wanted this right here. So now I can come back over here to my layer. I can end up making a mask and getting that part out. Now I see that it got rid of more than I wanted to, so that's where I can just come in here and paint in white onto this mask to make it reveal. Again, these layers, it's like punching a hole through this layer to see the one behind it. Anything that is black will not be seen. Anything that is white will be seen. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this on a little bit. And if I mess up like I did just then, not a big deal. I just switch my paint color back to black and just remove it. That's pretty good. I wouldn't mind a little bit of a shadow right there. So I'm going to get the selection. I'm going to invert the selection so it's like him. And I'm going to just make something like that where it's just black. I'm going to move it over so it's kind of like a shadow, and then I'm going to make it just apply to this cardboard. So whenever I hold down Alt and choose the layer below it, it adds it to just the cardboard. Move that around. Normally with a shadow, I like to go with the multiply effect. I like to take the opacity down a little bit, and I like to add a blur. Gaussian blur is usually the best for that kind of thing. So just going to blur it a little bit. Still doesn't look all that realistic yet. So it could be the blending style. It could be the fact that it's black, a black color instead of like a brown. So what I'm going to do now, because I'm not feeling it, is I'm going to find an actual shadow on here, like this one. See that little bitty shadow? And I'm going to get my paint dropper, find that exact color, and then I'm going to change this black color to that color. If we go light enough, yeah, it's better. I'm not crazy about the color of this cardboard though, if I'm being honest. And it could just be that I need to move the cardboard and the little guy here. I tell you what, I'm going to create this as a smart object. I'm going to blend these so I don't have to worry about them being two separate elements. And I'm going to move that down below. Ooh, nice. I moved it down below this other texture, and it created all these cool colors and textures and things. But now for this font. I want it to look like spray painted on. And the first thing I need to decide is what color should the font be in. The white's working really good down here, but let's see what this font looks like if it's in black. Does it look better in black? That pops pretty good. So now what I'm thinking is is if I had to do this in real life, I would spray around the edges. This might take a minute, so I might this might be part of the video that I speed up, but let's see how this is going to work. Maybe if I make a selection of, we'll start with trap. And maybe it's not both of them, maybe it's just one. So I'm going to come in here and create a new layer that I can paint on. And I've got this selection that's kind of hard to see because of the colors. So let me turn this off for a minute so I can see better. Okay, now I got this selection here. Make sure that my color is black. And let me find my paintbrush. There you go, there's an airbrush. Let's start playing around with this. I think what I want to do is I want to test painting on the inside to see which one I like more. I'll do it for the R and then we'll compare the two. And now let's zoom out. So, option 1, option 2. One thing that always helps a lot with design is to zoom out. I relate this to if you're listening to a mix, it's always good to turn the volume down very low and then see what you hear. Like maybe you think your drums are a good volume, but if you turn them down very low and you hear the drums more than the vocals, you got a problem. What do we think, team? You know what? There is a third way that I want to try this that actually might be the best. Let me show you what I mean. That would be do kind of like a stroke. Let me show you this. All right, let's take a look at that. It's got a cool look to it. Let's turn on the colored paper. Let's see each one of them. What do you think, kids? I think I like this one. A lot of times when you're doing drafts, you're going to polish things, and it's okay to leave them a little bit experimental, especially when you're collaborating with someone. So I'm going to do the third option here. I'm going to go ahead and paint that up, and then I'm going to share with you what it looks like when I'm done. And then I'm going to send it to Chuck and see what he thinks about it. Okay, so I went ahead and painted in the T, R, and P. Now I'm just going to save an image of this, add it to the folder of drafts, and then I'll review it with Chuck at a later date. The trucks in this town are so loud, they're always ruining my takes. If you enjoy this video, but you feel like you want to go a little deeper into the world of writing for TV and film, well, surprise, surprise, do I have a product for you? Tools for Television. How to break into songwriting for TV, film, and advertising. It's an ebook that complements this video series, and I have a few more resources in there to help you have a clear roadmap on where to get started today. If you want to get more of these songwriting tips and tricks, be sure to whack, wallop, smack, thwomp that like and subscribe. You know what? I'm not good at this. I'm not good at self-promotion. Don't even like and subscribe. I don't deserve your love. Bye-bye.